we're going to be covering how to configure Ansible now that we have installed it. As I mentioned in a previous lesson, Ansible is agentless, which means that the main requirement for running Ansible is that you need to be able to communicate with your servers over SSH. To do this, we need to place an SSH public key in the authorized keys file of our remote host. But you can also utilize a private key file or PEM file as well. Now, up to this point, we have been utilizing Vagrant images as our control machines. However, we now come to the crux of what Ansible is about, and that's managing hosts and automating actions against them. So we now need to get a host to actually manage. I wanted to run you through the options you have for managed hosts. Basically, if you're already running a Linux machine locally, like a Mac or an Ubuntu laptop, then you can install Ansible as a control machine right away. And then you can utilize Vagrant as your managed hosts. However, if you're running a Windows laptop, then you're most likely installing Vagrant to use that as your control machine. This means that we now have to find a host to manage. Because Vagrant Images managing Vagrant Images can become complicated, the best way forward in order to follow along with the lesson is to either target locally, meaning that any action that we run is going to happen on the Vagrant box itself, or alternatively, we can utilize a free tier virtual machine through one of the public cloud providers like Amazon. To start, I'll show you how to target locally, but I will also show you primarily how to target a machine through AWS. To continue with the latter option, the first thing that you need to do is to sign up for an AWS account. You would go to aws.amazon.com and sign up for a basic account. You can then launch EC2 instances using the free tier option so that you can get practice with Ansible. The only catch is that you can really only run one instance per month, so I'll demonstrate that here. Once you've signed up, you can now select EC2 from the dashboard and select Launch Instance. I selected a RHEL 7.2 AMI and configured the instance details. The important part of this is your PEM file. Once you have that downloaded, you can create a file of the same name on your Vagrant image. Make sure that it's publicly viewable, and then you should be able to SSH to your instance. Now that this is complete, we can utilize Ansible to talk to it. Because we're using a PEM file instead of a public SSH key, we're going to tell Ansible that in the Ansible configuration file, which we're going to cover in more detail in a future lesson. First, we're going to navigate to Etsy Ansible, and then you're going to open up Ansible config in an editor of your choice. Now, I've already modified the file, but the parameter you're looking for is private key file. In this parameter, you're going to place the path to your PEM file so that Ansible knows that you're going to be utilizing a private key instead of a public SSH key when you run commands. Now, once those changes are saved, go anywhere in your Vagrant image and create a directory to house your first project. I created a directory called My Project, and inside, I created a hosts file with the information about my EC2 instance that I launched in Amazon. We're going to go into more detail in host files in a future lesson, but for right now, the only thing that you need to know is that I'm going to be targeting just this one instance, and I have the public IP address listed here in any format. So now I want to test whether Ansible can talk to it, and for that, I'll run an ad hoc command. Again, not to sound like a broken record, but we're going to go into more detail on ad hoc commands in a future lesson. So to run an ad hoc command, you use the Ansible command. So Ansible, you're going to tell it which hosts you're going to target. In this case, I'm just going to say all because I only have one host. I'm going to specify the hosts file with the -I flag for inventory. I'm going to tell Ansible which user I'm connecting to this host as, which is EC2 user. And then I'm going to pass it a module argument, as in which module I want to use in this command. In this case, all I want to do is just to test whether I can talk to it. And for that, I'll use the ping module. Once this is all listed out, then I can press enter And if everything goes successfully, then I will get a pong back. And that means that I have now successfully configured my control machine to talk to a remote machine. It only takes a second or so. And perfect. I get a success message, which means that I have now successfully configured Ansible.